And welcome back to Capitol Tonight. Well, from today's session to the legal troubles of 2 state senators, there's actually more than enough to talk about with my next guests. They are our insiders. You know them. They are veterans of the Albany political scene who have lived through their fair share of political battles. Joining us tonight is former Pataki Communications Director Dave Catalfamo. He is now a senior partner at Capital Public Strategies. And across the table from him is Bruce Jory, former senior advisor to 2 Democratic governors, and now a strategic consultant for Corning Place Consulting and an adjunct professor at UAlbany. Thank you for joining me.
Thanks for getting in.
We wanted to make sure we've got everybody's titles down.
Thank
okay.
you. You're very kind.
You know what? You get to start. With the special session.
Oh, good.
That was not so
Pick any
special,
topic.
actually.
I do not understand how you call for a special session on a major issue without the votes. I mean, look at the members who you knew were not there. You knew Malcolm Smith was in China. You knew there were some others. To not have your ducks in a row on the way out the door as functionally the majority leader, even though his title is conference chair, I just don't understand how they got in this position. Why you don't wait a week till you know you have it. They wound up with 29 votes, which means you just needed a couple more votes. A couple of the members who you knew were away were sure to vote.
And some walked out.
And some walked out.
They weren't even there.
Which is a whole different level of bizarre.
You know, actually, I should correct myself because it was not a special session. The last Monday's was a special session as called by the governor. This was, which makes it all the more bizarre because it was actually called by John Sampson, who said, I am bringing the chamber back to have a second attempt. Please give me more time. Yes, I get more time from New York City OTB, and not so much.
Because the solution was the wrong solution. And again, it's a continuation of the same problem that we've had, which is basically trying to fix the problems of one part of the state, which is the City of New York. The City of New York already dumped $1 billion of liabilities on the state for New York City OTB in the first place. Now they come back and they want to do a deal that only helps New York City OTB. Doesn't do anything about the OTBs around the rest of the state, and frankly is part of the whole pinata of how we treat the racing industry in the first place, which is a complete mess.
Hold on.
You know?
New York City OTB, according to Greg Rayburn, who we've heard from, is bankrupt. They have a restructuring deal that they negotiated with the unions and their creditors, and et cetera and so forth.
But is it good for all the taxpayers in New York?
I'm just saying, if you wanted to get in on that, couldn't you have got in on that, I don't know, a year ago? Well, this is not new, this issue.
Yeah. I mean, and all of racing would benefit if this had been done. And in fact, Senator Roy McDonald, who the Saratoga racetrack sits in his district, voted for it.
Yes,
and another Republican, Frank Padovan, voted for it. So I mean, you know, when different parts of our state are in trouble, I don't know that I'd play the regionalism card with them. I just think it's unfortunate that they didn't line the votes up and get it done properly.
But regionalism is a big part of how politics is done in this state.
But maybe it shouldn't be. Maybe we should turn over a new leaf and it shouldn't be
Well, we've
anymore.
spent the past 4 years ostensibly serving the interest of downstate, in particular the City of New York, while upstate and Long Island have been largely left to wither. And we saw the results in the last election where upstaters and Long Islanders and whatnot changed the face of the conference in the Senate, which will now have a Republican conference. And I think we're going to see more balanced policy from that. I think that this is the continuation of the same policies that led to the overthrow of the Senate in the first place.
I guess he forgot about his party's lieutenant governor candidate, Scott Vanderhoff, who lost. I mean, look, they want to keep playing the regionalism card, fine. The fact of the matter is, when Nassau County was going bankrupt under a Republican administration, the rest of the state stepped up to the plate.
It's not a.
But Dave, I mean, as goes one county, so goes the rest of the states. Nassau County going bankrupt, does it not have an impact on the rest
Nassau County
of the
is not OTB.
Did New York City walk out when your administration stepped in to try to help Erie County?
Of course not.
No.
Nassau County is not OTB, though.
OTB, downstate OTB, you're talking about a major economic engine that then has a handle that then, you know, is impacted on NYRA and racing all over the state.
Of course. And again, what I'm suggesting is that there is a bigger solution than just bailing out New York City OTB.
Okay.
I mean, to the point where tonight, you know, NYRA puts out a release that basically says, well, if we don't do New York City OTB, now we're going bankrupt. I mean, how many times a year do we have to hear NYRA's going bankrupt? I mean, there's got to be a more global solution that New York and the horse racing industry is a statewide issue.
Okay, but if that's the case...
Interesting, the outside of New York City OTBs did not come to the table and even ask to be a part of these negotiations until right now, and they think they can take advantage of the extremists of New York City OTB with a new Republican leadership in the Senate coming in, and they think they can get a better deal.
But why are we supposed to believe that today we're going to go bankrupt when we didn't go bankrupt last week?
That now are
wait, what's so special about today as opposed to last week or the week before? Every week is we're going bankrupt. We're going bankrupt.
Exactly.
We're going
well,
bankrupt.
Then why didn't the regionals come and say, when we knew you were restructuring New York City OTB, we would like to get a piece of this action, please. We would like to get it at the front end and not at the back end when it does look like political expedience. It does. You have to admit.
But you have to. Well, I don't have to admit because the bottom line.
Because I don't agree.
No, because I don't agree because do you believe that New York City OTB is going to go bankrupt? How many times have we heard that they're going to close their doors?
I don't know. They're at midnight, which is just a few hours from now. We're going to see if they really are going to put their money where their mouth is, so to speak.
I don't know anything about the substance of racing or OTB. I'm a relatively boring person, so I don't know the substance.
You're faking it awfully well,
It just seems to me that it's an unfortunate example. But what David is saying of we have to have a grand solution to every problem in order to solve anything is one of the reasons I think the public is so upset with the dysfunction in Albany, because you can't get anything done.
Okay, well, fair enough. Now let us talk about, speaking of dysfunction, actually, which is a lovely segue. Vinny Libel, Senator, actually, we'll start with you. You actually probably knew him better than both of us did. Longtime senator, pleaded guilty to federal corruption charges yesterday. Really surprised the heck out of everyone.
Yeah.
What happened there?
Shocking. I mean, we were talking about it before we started. The last person I would expect maybe to hear that about, the fact that he just ran a county executive campaign in Putnam County. I think it points to the need for systematic reform in Albany, whether it's a ban on outside income or full disclosure.
Large-scale regional ethics reform, mind you.
statewide ethics reform. So that people can have faith. If you can't have faith in a guy like Vinny Libel, then you're really gonna we really have problems.
Vinny was a dear friend of mine. I don't know that I should be saying that now, but he is.
Oh, maybe you did know it,
and I'm crestfallen and shocked at this. He, a family man, seemingly an honest man. Whenever I dealt with him, always concerned about his district. The man I heard or read in the transcripts of those tapes, shaking someone down for cash contributions and then telling them not to tell the truth to an investigation, shocks me, breaks my heart. Well, but the connecting thread. We've seen both parties, all regions, members from both houses.
Right.
The connecting thread is they have come to view the discretionary income, they treat it as discretionary income, Freudian slip. The discretionary funds, member items, and other funds, as if it's theirs to dole out, whether we're talking Joe Bruno, Brian McLaughlin, Anthony Seminario, Gloria Davis, Efrain Gonzalez. And it's wrong, and we're going to have to get a handle on it and change it so that the review mechanisms come before the money goes out the door.
Well, then why not just get rid of them altogether? You're talking about member item cash. That's what you're talking about right now, right? Get rid of them, maybe? Maybe time to get rid of them.
Well,
a lot of them are, look, the vast majority of them are done honestly. They're done to important groups, to groups that are important in our community. It's the same question with federal earmarks. Can there be a process by which you actually have them and people can have confidence in them?
Can there be?
Sure.
Well,
I think there can be, and I think that it's very much part of fuller disclosure with respect to outside income, making sure that there's a lot more, not only transparency, because I hate transparency because it says if I give you 1,000 documents, that's transparent. Clarity is what we need. Clarity about business relationships is what we need, and that's lacking right now.
And maybe putting these member items through an independent screen, so there's an evaluation more like done in budgeting rather than it being viewed as this is my pot of money and I'm going to distribute it.
But I think it comes because it's part of a larger culture.
Yes.
The larger culture where there is no clarity, where transparency is opaque at best, and the legislature has essentially over the years carved itself out of some very important sunshine laws, and I think
I
that
do not
we
disagree with
need
him
to
on the
change that.
need for full disclosure
Okay.
at all.
Here's another thing.
Yeah.
So yesterday we have a former senator, just recently former Republican, was supposed to be Putnam County executive, now is not going to be Putnam County executive. Today we have a Democratic senator from Brooklyn, Kevin Parker, is found guilty by a jury of 2 misdemeanor counts. This stems from a 2009 incident where
Acquitted on the felony
charge of where he attacked a post photographer who was trying to take a picture of his house for a story that had to do with mortgage problems. Okay, so all of this is undeniable. Kevin Parker's had a lot of anger management issues.
Yep.
This goes back a long way. My question is this. If, in fact, the Senate saw fit to expel Hiram Montserrat because he was found guilty on a misdemeanor charge of domestic abuse, mind you, now must they follow their own thread and expel Kevin Parker?
This is tricky on 2 grounds. One, the misdemeanor wasn't the problem with Hiram Montserrat. It was the domestic abuse. It was the severity of the woman's injuries. Hold on.
I'm
Secondly, he was just reelected. This was out there in the public domain. The voters of that district knew this charge was pending. They reelected him anyway. They may have been wrong because of his anger management problems. You could make a persuasive argument, but they voted for him. I don't think the Montserrat precedent necessarily drives this, but it'll be very interesting to me whether the Republicans, because this functionally will not happen between now and the end of in December 31st when the Democrats have a scant margin of 1.
Right.
It'll come under the Republican watch. Do they move? I don't know that the Montserrat, I'd be interested in your view, actually.
Yeah, Dave?
Yeah, I'm not sure either. I mean, look, I think politically it's obviously a much different thing so far as can you muster the moral indignation. And you know, this is a real question about going after a reporter.
He attacked a journalist!
I know, and I'm talking to a journalist. You know,
Only a photographer. Only a photographer.
And if it was a girl journalist, would it be
Yes,
different?
then we throw him out.
Well, there you go.
We're all being really candid. It probably would be.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, there you go.
absolutely, right?
Exactly.
I mean, so, and also in this day and age when people are very familiar with paparazzi and photographers and people's faces and blah. Look, I'm not making excuses. The bottom
He
line.
also punched a meter maid once upon a time and was under court-ordered anger management.
The guy has issues. The guy absolutely has issues.
Yes.
Okay.
And the body should take some action. I don't think it's the same as the Montserrat piece. I do think that the Senate should take some action, whether
but
it's expelling
remember,
him or censuring or whatever.
They wanted
the
to get rid of
process is.
Hiram Montserrat because of there were bad feelings left over from the coup. I
Right.
mean, if we're going to be completely frank
On
about
both
it.
sides.
Sure,
On
on
both
both sides.
sides,
Sure,
yeah.
sure. He was poster boy for everything that was wrong with the Senate, and a lot of people made their bones on him, including the Attorney General-elect Eric Schneiderman,
Right.
who is now going to have to go back and investigate his colleagues with public corruption, and
Yes.
there you go. I think that it'll be difficult for them, and just tonight, actually, we heard John Sampson say, X is not like Y. In other words, just what you said.
Right.
If, in fact, domestic abuse, attacking a woman who's actually your girlfriend, is not like attacking a male photographer who was in your face with a camera trying to take a picture. I just think when you sit judgment and you make yourself judge and jury, then you have a difficult time. It seems like a slippery slope.
There's always a problem with that, and I don't think the criteria is a misdemeanor, because a misdemeanor is not an automatic suspension. Right. But it is tricky. Obviously, though, Parker will have Carl Palladino's support, who thinks that post photographers should be dealt with in this way. So
Yes.
Palladino will back
and Capital
will back
Tonight
Parker.
anchors too.
Yeah.
And Capital Tonight anchors too. Well, I want to ask you guys just
sorry.
it's okay. In parting about the inauguration very quickly. Do we think that there will actually be one, and will it be? I mean, apparently Andrew Cuomo is not interested in pomp, circumstance, bells, whistles, etc. So where will it be?
I don't know. I mean, I don't have a problem with that. They're very good at messaging, the messaging of austerity. I just hope they don't lose the opportunity to project the importance of an inaugural speech, which is a very important bully pulpit mechanism for any governor to set the tone.
Yeah, I mean, what are we really talking about here?
Well, you guys had you had a big one.
We did.
Yeah.
We did. Yeah. I mean, the bottom line is whether or not it's a larger party or a smaller party or whatever. I mean, the bottom line is that we're all going to be paying attention rapidly to what he has to say in his inauguration speech, and whether that's a crowd of 20 or 500 or 5,000, I think he'll have the same kind of platform because we all want to know. New Yorkers want to know.
And until 1982, the inaugurals were in the Assembly Chamber, and I don't know why we just don't go back to that.
Well, maybe we will.
Yeah.
We will, maybe. Well, and we're out of time, unfortunately. It's been a lot of fun. Bruce Story, thank you very much.
Thank you.
David Talfamo,
Thanks,
thank you. We'll be seeing you again because you know what? No lack of political news.